everybody. Welcome to The Rudy Show. I'm your host, Rudy, and this is my show. So for today's episode, we have a very wonderful guest, my best friend, Michael Palmer, who is a board-certified music therapist. And he is here to share his knowledge about the field of music therapy, a bit of the history, what does a session entail, that sort of thing. This is a very fun, lighthearted, educational episode, and I think you'll really enjoy it and learn a lot. I do have to apologize for the audio for my microphone during the episode. I did try my best to fix it or equal it out to Michael's, but alas, this is the best I could do. But Michael's voice is still loud and crisp and perfect, so that is the important part of the episode. So I am okay with rolling it out like this. I do apologize, and we'll make sure that doesn't happen in future episodes with guests. So that's going to be it. Rate 5 stars, follow the page and subscribe wherever you're listening on. And I really appreciate that. Appreciate you being here. And with that, let's get on with the episode.
Do you ever have to go in and edit out like a chunk of conversation?
Unless Jesse said something really racist. No, I never had to do that. But I do typically like take out seemingly like, I wouldn't say unnatural, but like noticeable gaps of silence.
That makes sense.
Like if I was listening to it and I was like, pick it up.
Yeah.
Then yeah, I'll edit it out.
If you're listening to a audio only thing,
yeah,
you want it to sound like you're in the room with them, not like they're sitting there thinking that game.
Yeah.
With the gaming stuff, I'd imagine it's kind of easier to let some of those moments play out if there's something happening interesting on the screen. Yeah,
definitely. Which the YouTube video will have some Azerlane gameplay. Just
no way.
Yeah, I mean, I started to do that. This is technically the second episode of season 2.
Oh, put Seattle right now.
Yeah, Seattle's on screen right now.
Yeah, let's go.
That was actually my very first question I was going to get to. I was like, what's your favorite ship go?
My favorite ship, since this is a Azerlane YouTube channel, I got to be aware of it. I remember, how long ago was it that you first showed me Seattle?
It probably had to be like 2021.
Okay.
Because that was... Well, maybe it could have been sooner because I got into the game in the summer of 2020.
Okay.
And then afterwards, there might have been a time you and I were playing Monster Hunter, and I just told you about it, and you looked it up.
You sent maybe.
And I probably sent you pictures.
Yeah. Since then, lifelong fan of Seattle. Because there was the violins were incorporated.
Yes.
Yeah.
She has a skin with has a violin.
Yeah. So.
And I think she's the only. Not like it's canonical, like, yeah, she plays the instrument, but like she seems to be, as far as the skin looks, she seems to be the most likely to actually play it.
Nice.
Because there are some other characters where they have like, they're sitting at a piano, but I'm like,
you can tell they don't play.
They don't play the piano.
She doesn't have the wrists to play piano. She's a boat.
She's a boat.
But yeah, hands down, Seattle. My favorite.
Yeah.
Ship girl. I could not name another one for what it's worth.
I believe you could, but without knowing it.
Oh no.
Just because they're named after places.
Oh.
Because boats are just named after places.
Ohio.
Yeah, that's one.
No way.
I believe so. I just said yes.
Tennessee.
Tennessee is one.
I'm gonna name some more places. Walmart
is not one.
Okay.
Imagine if they named a battleship after Walmart.
That ship's got everything.
But everyone, this is my best friend Michael on the podcast, The Rudy Show.
Which camera should I wave to?
That one. He's here mostly to talk about music therapy.
Mm-hmm.
And this is kind of in theme. I'm glad you reached out to me for this because this is in theme of Men's Mental Health Month. Did you know this is Men's Mental Health Month?
I did actually, yeah. It's, a more recent focus culturally to stand up and advocate for mental health of any kind, let alone Men's Mental Health Month. But it's
men in particular though do need some special attention, I believe.
Yeah,
just because it has been neglected by men for a very long time.
Yeah, and in lots of conversations I've had with other people that I know, understanding the importance of speaking up about things, and even personal experiences or people close to me, it's a big deal, and I'm glad that it's getting more attention, and that I myself can contribute to the improvement in some people's lives professionally and maybe recreationally, so to speak. But yeah, it's really important, and I, as much as within the realm of music therapy, as important as the music half of it is to me personally as a person who grew up a musician, the other half of that, it's a musician and a therapist in music therapy, and understanding the populations that are marginalized in any way. I know that men have kind of got it pretty well for the most part, but definitely, like you said, it's been neglected for a while, and it's important to stand up for it.
Yeah, I think where the difference kind of lies in with the relationship between men and mental health is that they kind of neglect it themselves, but they are definitely in a position where they could just get it if they want it. And I mean, that's not entirely true. I'm pretty sure there have been many cases of people going to the doctor being like, "I'm sad, don't be sad."
Yep.
Don't be sad. Have you seen that reel?
Yeah, I've seen that.
Do you get mad? Yeah, don't get mad. Don't get mad. But I would because you mentioned a bit of the halves of music therapy being half musician, half mental health therapist, provider. I think that in itself has a lot to unpack there. That'd be really interesting. So how would you describe music therapy? What is it?
Yeah, my kind of go-to quick answer for that is it's the use of music to achieve non-musical goals. I have a official definition here with my bookmark from the Peters Music Therapy book. I was introduced to this as a student. It's kind of an overview of everything that someone entering the field needs to know, and definitely not a complete list of everything within the scope of music therapy, but it has an important definition here, which goes, music therapy is defined as a planned, goal-directed process of interaction and intervention based on assessment and evaluation of each individual client's specific needs, strengths, and weaknesses, in which music or music-based experiences are specifically prescribed to be used by specifically trained personnel to influence positive changes in an individual's condition, skills, thoughts, feelings, or behaviors. That's a long sentence, but in short, the important things are it is an evidence-based practice. There's research behind it. Research is being done consistently. More and more journals come out every day about the different populations served, the different kinds of interventions that have been found to be effective, the different settings in which it is used. So yeah, it's evidence-based practice. Another important thing there, specifically trained personnel. Music can be therapeutic. I think everyone that appreciates music on some level has a favorite song, favorite artist, favorite performance, that when they listen to it, they feel their mood is influenced, and they just feel good. Music makes people feel good. I think it's an emotional medium of art. While that can be therapeutic, it is not innately music therapy. That does require a trained professional using the music clinically and therapeutically for it to be music therapy. The other important part of this, I think, is the need for some kind of therapeutic goal to be in place. I'm going to draw from my own experience. I work at a psychiatric hospital. A lot of the times the therapeutic goals there are going to be increasing social skills, increasing emotional expression, increasing insight into oneself, and building confidence. Those are just a small example of some of the goals that I've worked towards in my own experience as a music therapist out in the field. And that's kind of the hard thing, is that I've seen some people that are introduced to the field and think, oh, I listen to this song when I feel this way. I'm doing music therapy, right? And like I said, it can be therapeutic. It can definitely influence your mood. I think anyone that's ever been interested in music ever is drawn to it because of that experience. But for it to be music therapy, it is a healthcare field. It's it's prescribed, and it should be treated as such. There's a reverence that I definitely developed for the field itself and for people that do it, because of these kind of stories and the breakthroughs and the goals that are outlined in different patients' or clients' treatment plans. Yeah. So it's kind of a long answer to what is music therapy, but yeah. It's pretty, it's more in depth than even I thought at first when I first learned about it in 2016. Everything I had researched or learned as a student or an intern, and all the way working up to now as a board certified music therapist professionally working in the field. There's always another thing to learn, which is really cool about a growing field like this.
Yeah. How long has the research for this been going on? Go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, okay. The earliest traces of music therapy being used goes all the way back to World War II. That's hard to say. World War II. Yeah, the soldiers there. I only know a little bit, but I do know this is part of it. It goes all the way back to there. The soldiers were, the main thing that soldiers would kind of deal with is post-traumatic stress disorder. And back then, maybe a lot of people thought they can get through it just by popping pills and smoking cigarettes. Tying into the kind of generational trauma that some men experience. But yeah, there's been records of music being used therapeutically all the way back then. I think more for emotional stabilization and for improving quality of life. I think those are some more modern goals that I think I've seen referenced back then, but that was the very beginnings of it. I wish I had the names ready to go of the important people that started this field, started this practice all the way back then, almost a century ago.
Yeah.
But I think even back then, the medical professionals that were able to recognize, hey, this is an important and effective way to improve these people's lives. Yeah. Music can, scientifically, with the research that we know, music affects the entirety of the brain.
It activates 100% all at once, though.
But like it does. And, I think I've heard a lot of people say, oh, I'm left-brained or I'm right-brained, depending on whether they believe themselves to be a logical person or a creative person. There's a lot of studies that show that music can really engage all parts of the brain, whether being logical and trying to recognize patterns in the music, creatively recognizing the emotional expression through lyricism or through composition, even like the language recepting part of the brain, where you're trying to receive this information from another human being. It really gets everything. And I think even back then, maybe if that's not the exact reason that they knew to use music, I'm sure they were like, I think this is right. We're going to use it because we think that it does this. And then over time, it just grew and grew. I think it was in the 70s or 80s, they established a national recognition for music therapists. I think back then you would become a registered music therapist, an RMT. And then I should have these dates, but I don't know them off the top of my head. I just know kind of rough ballpark of when they were, but I think it was in the 80s that the current method that we have for recognizing music therapists is the certification board for music therapists was established, and today we have board certified music therapists practicing all over the world in many different settings and serving different populations. I think when I got certified earlier this year, there was just over 10,000 certified music therapists in the world. So that may sound like a big number,
but it's like kind of what I understand, as a patient of therapy and just sort of a light researcher, because like I did take some psychology classes in high school and college. I, talk therapy is kind of typically what people think of when they think of therapy. And I know that, 1800s, that would be like the original history of that. So got another like 100 years on music therapy. But yeah, just from my experience of like going to clinics and stuff, I'm like, there's a lot of talk therapists. Definitely a lot more than 10,000. But yeah, no, that I think it's pretty fascinating that like it's still a very developing science in practice, and at the same time though, I kind of feel like that's to its benefit as a patient, because I feel like whereas talk therapy kind of has settled into a lot of traditional ways of doing things, I feel like maybe that is in a detriment to some extent, because when you mentioned earlier about like goal-oriented practicing, like that was the one thing that kind of stood out to me as like, oh, okay, that feels really different than what I experienced as a patient, and maybe some other people kind of feel the same way. Well, like maybe they just go to a doctor, be like, I'm sad, okay, let me refer you, and then they don't really have a goal. They just sort of sit there and be like, what's going on, and then sort of expect you to pick it up from there. Whereas it seems, from what it sounds like, which I guess I'll ask in a bit of like what a detailed session could kind of be like, is you kind of get a plan for what this one particular person or maybe a group of people need specifically, and how do you cater to sort of fix the session or the practice to them to achieve those goals. Whereas talk therapy is kind of like, what's going on for the day? It's been a while since we talked. What's happened? And then it's the stuff they do is still like scientific to a degree, but like it kind of puts a lot of that goal orienting on the patient. Whereas like they may not know better. Like they may not know like exactly what to mentally focus on in that regard. But yeah, so yeah, if you could divulge in what a detailed session kind of looks like. Yeah,
even kind of building off that last point, the other thing I've learned is that in any kinds of therapy, there's, the therapists themselves and their style is going to play a big part into what those sessions look like. And I've seen some music therapists that are kind of taking that approach of like, I'm just going to get in there, do some quick assessment, and let the patient or client really drive it, and then go in that direction, support them in whatever they're doing. But I also think mostly in the ways that it has been described to me and shown to me, in ways that I've been kind of taught to lead my own experiences. We have that goal in mind and working towards that. So that's whatever the specific patient's needs, whatever the therapist style is, they're all going to play a part. So typically in a session, I've been lucky enough to work with a few different kind of populations through practicum as a student, and during my internship, I was also at a psych hospital. So that's where I have the most kind of experiences under my belt. But in a individual session, let's say with a younger child diagnosed with autism, a typical session may look like they come in, they're welcomed through music immediately in something what we'd call a gift song or a hello song. And immediately off the bat, we're trying to establish that connection from one human being to another through a musical experience. I'm going to sing the words hello, how are you, how, everyone has their own style of doing a hello song, and look for those little interactions that may not even be musical. It might just be they hear me singing to them. I'm going to make eye contact with this person who's trying to sing a song at me. Yeah. Which over time hopefully might build to the child also playing along on the piano or singing their own parts of the song. Yeah. Depending on, the goals of what the session are. A lot of the things that I've been involved with have been making music with the patients involved. In this other text that I want to reference, this comes from Professor Ron Borzon's fieldwork primer. Yeah. He was the director at Cal State Northridge when I was a student there. He's worked for I think 40 years as a music therapist. A vast source of knowledge. I feel lucky to have been a student of his. In this book, he outlines the 4 main methods of using music in a session. You have improvisation, composition, recreative music therapy, and receptive music therapy. And those might be straightforward, but I can talk about each one a little bit. Improvisation, you go into a session not thinking too much, just kind of doing what instinctively makes sense with the instrument that's in front of you, or with the instrument that we all have at all times, our voice. Yeah. And we can gather information from clients or patients in the way that they make music, the musical elements that come through what they're playing, if they're playing really loud, if they're playing really soft, if they appear timid in body language, if they seem shy, if they seem maybe nervous or anxious about making music, or if they're confident and they're big and they're strong and they're guiding the music themselves. A lot of information that can come through that. In composing music, I think this is something that I've used a little bit myself. Giving someone that power to create something on their own that's completely their own. I think there's a lot of power that comes in that. And that can look like writing a whole new song, either individually or as a group, or contributing a one instrument part to a larger composition as a group. But the core of it is, writing something that the patient can really call their own, whether that's instrumental or maybe even lyrical, something that they could look at that has their name on it. This is mine. I made this. And I would hope they could look at it and say, I'm proud of this. Or you could look at that and say, maybe I don't like the information that this gives off. Maybe I don't like the words that came to me that I wanted to write and contribute to this. So yeah, another way of getting information. Yeah. I'm just going to read this paragraph for recreative music therapy. Recreative methods include the client actively involved in singing, playing, or performing music with or without an audience being present. Recreative experiences can range from sing-along to a client being emotionally expressive through performing a piece of music that has meaning for him. Another form of music making, but not with like improvisation, there's not really a plan. There might be an outline of an experience, but not really a plan. In composing, we're writing it down. We're maybe going to try to remember this or record it so that we can look back and look at what we'd created together or individually. With this one, I'd imagine something like if a patient comes in and says, I really want to sing this song today. Let's say Dolly Parton's 9 to 5. It's speaking to me. I want to sing it out. So I'll grab a guitar and be like, hey, I'll play it. Go ahead and sing it. And we'll sing it together. And through that, back on that point of information coming out, why is that song something that you want to connect with right now? What about it is pulling something out of you? What about it is giving you the confidence to get up there and put yourself out there? In a sense, making music can be scary for a lot of people that are not musicians already. But there's always something to express with it, which I think is really cool. And receptive music therapy is really the use of music for the patient to listen to and to just take in. I think my favorite example of this that I've seen has been music focused relaxation interventions and experiences, where maybe someone's guiding through a relaxation experience, and there's music in the back that enforces that that milieu of the room, where it's influencing the mood a little bit, reflecting the music that's happening. But there's no need for the patient to create their own music and really participate in it, besides listening to it and maybe having a conversation after about what they believe the music contributed to the experience. So within, those 4 main methods, there's a lot of different things to do. Earlier I mentioned a hello song at the beginning. You might also have a goodbye song at the end to kind of bookend it with the musical experience. And similar goals of, we're going to say goodbye to each other through music. So a typical session might look completely different one day to the next, depending on if the therapist wants to use any of those 4 methods. And even those are broad. You can get really specific into those kind of things, and make something really your own, or something that's more vague, maybe something earlier in a patient's time with a therapist that they're still gathering that information. They're still doing those assessments. They're still zeroing in on what those goals should be. But yeah, one of my favorite things is that it could look like so many different things within that scope.
That's incredible.
I feel like all these answers are just so long. And even then I'm like, I'm cutting these short.
And I feel like the majority of your explanation there was just the beginning of the session. And there's so much I could go into. And the hello song, that sounds lovely.
Getting to do those on my own, like write my own hello songs or use another therapist's in some of these sessions, and seeing how people react to it. I've done hello songs for one patient, one young child, or to a room of like 40 geriatric patients at a memory care facility. And whether it's that one person or to those 40 people, seeing how the music, do you start playing something or singing something to them, and you can see that reaction that it elicits out of people. And, it sets up a really nice, from where I stand or sit in the sessions, it's that welcome. We are going to be making music for the next half an hour, 50 minutes, however long it's going to be. And this is my opening the door to you by, I'm going to put myself out there a little bit. I'm going to sing first and see what you think of it. And either I'm going to keep trying to get you to sing, or you're going to meet me here and we're going to sing together. That first 2 or 3 minutes, it's always really fun.
Do you, these sound like really exciting and energetic kind of experiences, but I'm pretty sure there are some where like maybe a client is probably a bit more reserved, and then you got to meet them there. Sort of
meeting them there. It's one of the biggest. Would
you say challenges?
Not challenges. There's one of the things that we were taught as students becoming music therapists. The importance of the ISO principle. I'm sure you've heard of the ISO principle before. Is meeting the client where they're at. If I come in to a room of people and I start singing a song and I'm way up here and the music is fast and but you could look out and gather that information real quick. Are the people making eye contact with you? Do they look uncomfortable? Are they matching the energy that I'm coming in with? And that I think is if you can't make those adjustments real quick and say, they are not where I'm here, up here with this music. Let's meet them where they're at. Let's get back down to maybe where they need to be, for whatever reason, whether that's that mood in that day, or a behavior that's maybe a byproduct of a different symptom or a different diagnosis. The important thing always is to make sure that they're comfortable. You want to be where they are. If a client is maybe more reserved and really shy, you're not gonna go in there and start singing Pharrell Williams happy and try to like, hey, meet me up here, we're all happy, right?
Yeah.
You're not gonna do that. You're gonna start a little bit lower to invite them in a way that is more comfortable for them.
I see.
So it's very client focused in that sense.
Yeah. Awesome. I wonder how accessible this sort of thing is. Like, it sounds like not a place that like every clinic, every single hospital is equipped to provide. But it also sounds like it would be really great if this could be accessible to like a lot more populations. So yeah, how accessible is it at this point?
Yeah, the main populations that are, I guess, serviced kind of in a really quick window of music therapy. You know, younger students with autism is like kind of the main one. Anytime that we're using examples, geriatric populations, like I mentioned earlier with memory care. That's another kind of big staple, I guess, is a way to put that. As a student early on, I learned that in correctional facilities, it can also be used there, helping individuals there rebuild those skills that they need to re-enter society. And I feel like there's another one. Schools, nursing homes, correctional facilities, hospitals. As much as, you know, it's one of those things where for sure you can get music into anywhere. Any room that you can have a client and a therapist and one or two musical instruments, a music therapy session can happen there. And even with that being said, I think there's still definitely room for it to grow. The resources sometimes can be a little bit difficult to acquire. Places that want to invest and, you know, buy instruments that are used, other technology, you know, having the space for it even. I think most places that already have it are the programs are established there because someone went in and advocated and said, hey, this can work here, and this, you know, maybe this will work here as long as it's being used ethically, therapeutically, and used correctly. Yeah, I was even surprised to find, you know, when I was as a student looking for internships that were available to me, the state hospital that we grew up with right here, and I remember being surprised. I was like, oh, they have music therapy in there. That's kind of crazy. And I would really like for it to get to a point where we're not surprised that a facility has music therapy. Yeah. That it's almost expected that every school district around here, every hospital, every correctional facility has these resources available. Nursing homes, memory care facilities, adult daycares. It can really be everywhere. That's the cool thing that I've seen is it might look different place to place, but it really can be everywhere. And it should. I'm gonna go on there and say it should. It should be everywhere. Yeah. Not just as a music therapist myself and maybe bias and think, hey, this should be everywhere. I think just even as a human being that has seen music do important things in people's lives, I'm gonna say it should be everywhere.
Yeah, I'd agree. We're advocating for it now.
Yeah.
On this podcast.
If you're listening,
Obama. Got that, Obama?
Start a music therapy program right now.
How do you feel being able to talk about this?
You know what? As a student for so long, even before being a student and just being someone that knew about it, I always kind of felt like I'm not equipped to really talk about it yet. And even to an extent right now, you know, I've only entered the profession within the last few months, and the only experiences as a clinician, so to speak, have really just been practicum as a student, my internship, and now the short time I've had so far working as a hired music therapist. It's been, you know, really important to me for a long time, and I think even now, not knowing really everything, I stumbled over dates earlier, and I had only vague outlines of the history. The parts that I can talk about, I could talk for so long.
Yeah.
And the different ideas about where it could go and the ways that it can be used. And understanding more and more about the ways that different people can be reached. You know, there's always going to be another thing to learn. I think that's the cool thing about it. One of my professors at Cal State Northridge, Helen Dolis, she did her time. She was a music therapist, and she's been a researcher. She's started her own company, Able Artswork, out in Long Beach. She's kind of done a lot of these different things, and she would come in as a professor on top of that and tell us there's always something new to learn. There's always a new thing, a new idea that someone's going to have, and it'll broaden the scope of what you believe music therapy to be. And as a student, I'm sitting there and I'm still trying to learn the basics, man. I'm trying, I'm trying to learn these kind of go-to songs for these populations and how people are using them. And even her, in her experience, you know, decades of working in the field, growing the field, advocating for the field, learning more as a researcher, just to know that there's, like with most things that you throw yourself into, there's going to be so much more than you know. And I think, I'm sure if you asked any music therapist that's been working 30, 40, 50 years, I'm sure they would agree, especially as the field expands, but also kind of the culture around music expands as well. I'm sure that the go-to songs 30 years ago are not the go-to songs today. I was able to observe a session at work the other day where the patient just wanted to listen all the way through a Drake album and talk about what the songs brought up, what feelings and thoughts the songs brought up. And the therapist was like, yeah, okay. Brought out a speaker, put the album on. They'd stop after each song and talk about it. Yeah. And it was for a little bit there, I was thinking, man, I'm sure if you were to show this exact scene to a music therapist back in 1979, they'd be like, how are they using this music therapeutically? Yeah. As you know, the culture of music changes. Mm-hmm. And I think that was maybe also the first time I'd listened all the way through a Drake album. But
do you remember which one it was?
It's the one that has
is it the one where in the cover he's like looking kind of sad at a table? Like,
I don't know for sure. I remember that one of the songs towards the end had a guest spot by Chief Keef.
I'm not familiar.
That's the only detail I remember right now, unfortunately. Afterwards we can
editing really put it on screen.
There you go. Put on this song. I'll tell you what song later, and then you can put that song on.
And then this video gets copyright struck.
Yeah. Just put I think you get 3 seconds before you get in trouble. Yeah. Put on the Chief Keef part. But yeah, it's where I am right now, looking back at everything that I knew about when I entered the program in 2021. Looking back, I'm like, man, he knew nothing at all. And then I'm sure in 3 years I'll look back to this moment right now, recording this podcast, and think, man, he knew nothing at all. Yeah, it's. What was the initial question? How's it feel to be talking about it right now? It's empowering.
Nice.
I think that's the one word answer.
Yeah, I in my public speaking class, we had a project where we could teach the class something, and then one thing we kind of talked about a lot is being able to teach it is a better opportunity to learn it.
Nice.
Because you just naturally, you're just reviewing the stuff, but then also you get to kind of feel the spots that okay, maybe I could improve a bit more in this spot or whatever. And it's another thing too, with the dates thing, I remember listening to other therapists talk about their favorite authors or professors or researchers, whatever. They also don't get the dates right all the time. And I think that's an interesting point, is that where you're professional, you're there. I would say that there's a reason why you're board certified, because you're efficient enough, you're educated, trained, experienced enough to be him.
Yeah, I could remember the dates at the exact right time I needed to remember them, and now,
yeah, I don't know. It's just an idea I've had of like your teachers are people, and they've been in the same spot you are now. 20 years from now, who knows? You might be teaching somebody this stuff. You might be training somebody.
It's true.
But then they'll be like, "Oh, Michael knows fucking everything." And you're like, "Look, I don't know."
I am very excited to be like an intern supervisor and all that stuff. I think I've always liked that idea of kind of passing on knowledge. Since as you know, sitting in the room right now, I worked 8 years in special needs education, and getting to kind of be somewhat of a guide in academics, or in academic goals, behavioral goals, whatever it is. But that is encouraging in a way to hear. It's like you're
glad
all the the different accolades that I minimize on my own.
I think a lot of people do.
Yeah.
But
I appreciate that reminder, whether it's you or shout out to my wife for always reminding me of all the things that it took to get to this spot right here. Any field's going to take a lot of work to get into, to be professional in it. Yeah. And takes a passion for it, for sure. So this isn't something you do passively. Right.
Yeah, definitely. Dang. I do wish this could go on longer, but I think we hit the 40-minute mark.
Yeah, no, it's a nice, concise look into it, for I would imagine that anyone that stumbles upon this podcast maybe doesn't know what it is, Now
they have a better idea, for sure.
Early on, we talked about how it's still growing, and hopefully this will help it grow a little bit more.
Yeah. If anybody in my YouTube's Discord is listening, just say hi. just let me know that you guys are listening to this, and also, what do you think?
Yeah.
And what do you think about mental health? Because it is, Men's Mental Health Month. 99% of my audience is male, according to my YouTube stats.
Oh, nice.
So yeah,
shout out to the homies.
Shout out to the homies, the fellas.
Yeah. If I can make a request too, say hi for sure. Also, what's your favorite song? What's your favorite artist? This is a music-focused conversation.
I do like that.
Yeah.
That brings me to a question I had earlier. If this might be really weird, but could you think of on the spot a way someone can practice music therapy personally, in their everyday life?
I think since really by definition what music therapy is a therapist providing an experience for a client or a patient.
You got to have that.
Yeah, it's there's a therapist-client relationship that is integral to it. Someone supporting another person with music. But I think an important thing to take note of, just within the realm of this conversation, is look at the music that means more to you than some others, and maybe write down why it means more to you. Kind of open that conversation a little bit with yourself. Why does this song by who's an artist? Give me an artist right now.
Just because you mentioned him earlier,
Drake. Why does this Drake song speak to me a lot more than this J. Cole song? There's a connection culturally right now between these artists. So why do I really like this song over this other one? There's a lot of music that sounds kind of the same out there. Why do I like this artist a lot more over this one? Take inventory of that and see why, and seek out other types of music that might mean more to you than you realize.
Yeah, that's a good way to do it. Actually, kind of reminds me of just regular journaling.
Yeah,
but a bit more music focused. Yeah,
because music might just be someone else's journal that they're letting you read. Ooh.
And with that, I think we'll begin to close the episode. Thank you very much for listening. Michael, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge.
Yeah, of course. Which camera should I wave to right now?
The other one.
All right. Hey, guys. How's it going? I appreciate the platform.
Yeah.
It's obviously very important to me. And it's an important conversation, especially like you said during Men's Mental Health Month.
Yeah.
What are some ways that mental health is addressed and improved? This is one way I like.
Heck yeah. All right, and once again, thank you for listening, everybody. This has been The Rudy Show, and take care.